Hey everybody, welcome to another Whiteboard Wednesday. Today I'm going to talk specifically about Rule 1, which is the buffer, and Rule 3, which is saving for a rainy day. I want to illustrate first in one scenario where we have someone kind of operating with the status quo, and then we'll illustrate someone else that's implemented first Rule 1 and then Rule 3, although actually it's the other way around in practice. But what I want to show you is basically the cash flow situation of your first person who's not following any of these rules, and they're basically living paycheck to paycheck. So on your x-axis you have just time passing, and on your y-axis you'll have actual cash, cash available. So normally a person will have, maybe a person that has two paychecks, they'll pay here and they'll be paid here. And so their situation looks something like this. As they maybe start out here and things aren't going too well, they're getting down to the wire, and then they're paid. So their cash flow increases. And then they've waited and timed bills and things to go with this. So now that their paycheck is hit, they start paying bills and spending that money, and things get more stressful, and then they get another paycheck, and they repeat that cycle again and again and again. You have situations where you'll actually dip below and run into negative cash flow, where someone's starting to actually dip into credit, put something on credit, and then they get paid and they come back up here, but they've got that part there that they've created a little hole. And then if you repeat that cycle over and over and over, where you're living it down to the wire and you dip a little bit below, you dig a little bit of a hole. You get your paycheck, whoops, dipped a little bit below, dipped a little bit below. Each one of those instances where you have to put a little bit on the card over time, over a couple of years, it can really add up. And that's where people find themselves with thousands in credit card debt, is this cash flow situation. If they examined it a little bit and were a little more aware, a little more careful, they would find out that they really just had to shift things, and you would never have these instances where you're dipping into negative cash flow territory, having to put it onto a card. So there's another axis here, and that has to do with stress. So on this end of the axis you have bliss, and on this end of the axis you have stress, okay? As your cash gets here, you're not to bliss or anything, but you're feeling okay. But that as your cash flow starts to dip, stress starts to increase. And that's what you have down here. When you're operating up in this area, bliss. Okay? So let's talk about implementing the buffer here and how that can help you in exactly this situation. Let's leave the bliss there. Okay, so we've got time again. Now this person is going to be operating with a buffer. So the only real difference is, instead of starting out the month with almost nothing, they're still going to be paid twice a month, those 2 points. But they're going to start here, because they've got their paycheck or paychecks from the prior month on hand, ready to budget, coming into this new month. So they sit here with their cash flow. So as things, they start to spend their money as planned, start to spend their money, and then they're paid, okay? And then they get up, start spending their money again as planned, and they're paid, okay? Actually, probably about there. And then as they approach that new month, their spending gets down to their normal pay level. But your actual cash level, you never dip into this area. You're operating somewhere around here, and you just never get into this scary area because you're operating with this buffer in place, where as you're spending last month's money, your cash flow position is being, buffeted again with your new paychecks that are coming in. So prior month's money that was earned is right here, is this amount. And then you're spending it, and then you're paid. And then you spend some, and you're paid. So you end up getting to the equivalent of last month's paychecks, and then you go into the next month and you repeat the cycle. living with this rule where you're looking only at spending the prior month's income, it's not something you have to constantly get to. You just need to look at it and make a sprint and cut down, cinch the belt quite a bit, save whatever you can, scrounge, just do not touch those paychecks for the entire month. And then you're in this position going forward. It's a one-time sprint, you reach that position and then you're there, because that cycle will repeat over and over. Now when you add in Rule 3, where we talk about saving for a rainy day, things look even better. Because as we know, Rule 3 categories such as Christmas or property taxes or car insurance, life insurance, those all build balances over time. So your whole cash position, like with Christmas, if you're putting away $100 each month toward Christmas, then that position over the entire year, if you imagine this now as the entire year, this x-axis, your Christmas fund is going to look like this, and then here, here, and it's going to be climbing over time, right? And then your property taxes are going to boost that a little bit. It's going to go here, here, and that's, that'll add up over time. And maybe property taxes is paid halfway through the year, so it dips back down, and then you start adding it again. But you have all of these funds that are being added. So your rainy day funds overall, if this dashed line is your funding amount, it starts to look something like this, and then maybe it dips, and then, but you have this cash that's always sitting there that's being replenished and then spent and replenished and spent. On top of this now you add your paycheck that comes in. So instead of here, you're now sitting about here. And then you spend, and then you're paid, spend, and your whole cash position increases. This is where you're getting toward bliss, where you have so much cash in your bank account that you don't have to worry about timing bills. You don't have to worry about the car repairs all of a sudden being needed, because you have money in hand and you're ready to roll with it. And that, instead of this stressful roller coaster that I illustrated first, where you're dipping below, arguing, getting mad, you're mean because you're dipping below, you're a lousy employee because you're stressed, you're a lousy dad because you're stressed, always dipping below that line, that just won't happen. You'll have this part of your life just on an evenly keeled, where it's just smooth sailing. So instead of this roller coaster, you're just kind of even the whole time. Things are much better. So that was kind of Rule 1 and Rule 3 on a whiteboard, but what I wanted to show you basically was what Rule 1 does for your cash flow, living on the prior month's income, and then what Rule 3 also does for your cash flow, where you're setting aside funds for specific, unexpected, or expected larger expenses. I hope you enjoyed it, and encourage you to share this with your friends if you think it would help them at all. I'm wearing a t-shirt that people have requested, so if you want to buy one and wear it to the next party, you can also click on the link below. Thanks.